Welcome back. In this lesson, I'll show you how to use the tab control. Now, the tab control has two components. First is the tabs, the nav tabs, which contain links to the various sections. And then you have the actual tab content, or the tab panes, which contain the content that will be switched. So let's start with the first component. I'm going to do an UL with a class of nav and nav tabs. And inside, I'm going to put like 3 list items, each one containing an anchor tag. Now, each anchor tag must have the following properties: a data toggle, which equals tab. This will allow it to act like a tab. And then the href will link to the various IDs that will set for individual tab panes. For text, let's just say section number. And for actually the href, let's do section number as well. So now we have this 3 list items, each one containing a link going to section 1, 2, 3, having data toggle set to tab, and the text to section 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's save and refresh. Great, so we have the tabs. Now, usually the first tab is the active one. So you can set the class of active to the first list item. And this is what happens. Next, it's time for the tab content. So I'm going to create a div with a class of tab content. And inside, I'm going to have 3 divs with a class of tab pane, so times 3. And actually, each one will have the ID of section dash 1, 2, 3, and each one will contain some content. So let's do a paragraph, which will contain like, this is section number content. Okay, and also I'm going to add the class of active to the first tab pane. And let's see, refresh, section 1 content, section 2, and section 3. You can add a fade effect to each tab by adding the class of fade to the tab pane. So fade and then fade. And on the first one, you got to put in because it's the first tab. So now you have a nice fade in effect. Now, if instead of tabs, you would like to use pills, all you have to do is say, instead of this, say nav pills, refresh. And now you have a different looking control. If you want to stack these vertically, you can use the class of nav stacked. And this also works for tabs. But of course, if you're using the stacked method, it will only make sense to use pills instead, since they look different. If you want to make these tabs in equal size, you would add the class of nav justified, right? And they will change their size to be equal, depending on the parent element, of course. Now, on screen widths smaller than 768 pixels, these nav links are stacked. So if we resize this, yeah, they are now stacked, but on large desktops, they look like this. So that's how you can use tabs and pills in Bootstrap. Now, the first component you see in a page is the navbar, and this framework has some pretty interesting options for it. More about that in the next lesson.